So there's a trending story that's kind of happening right now regarding Maxx Crosby. There are fans out there that are saying that Maxx Crosby is struggling in the 2025 NFL season. This is wild to me, right? I actually came across this yesterday while I was browsing Twitter. There was a post that was kind of shown to me, had over 200 likes. Guy was saying that, hey, Maxx Crosby got his ass kicked by Josh Connerly. Apparently gave up no sacks to this rookie offensive tackle. More than that, I've watched all these games, and Max apparently hasn't done anything in all of these games. Maxx Crosby is not getting to the quarterback in a lot of these games. And more than that, the Raiders defense is kind of struggling, and Maxx Crosby was apparently the one to blame. And reading some of these comments, people were saying things like, hey, there was a time when Maxx Crosby went on his podcast and said, I don't have any guaranteed money, so the Raiders better pay me, right? Or I might not be here, right? Or something to that tune. There were comments saying that Maxx Crosby had a 0% win rate. And this one kind of got me because I quickly checked this and I realized that that's not even accurate. But Tristan Kuhn posted this, and this isn't the comment that I was talking about necessarily, but this actually does post a 0% win rate here. Tristan Kuhn is putting it out, and these are numbers by Pro Football Focus. Maxx Crosby had 3 pressures, a sack, and a 0% win rate, which that's kind of, contradicting in itself, right? If he has a sack and 3 pressures, that's 4 separate plays. Doesn't that mean he won against whoever he was blocking? Or are they saying that he got a pressure 4 separate times, 3 pressures, a quarterback sack? Did that happen where he just went unblocked? This is wild to think because, sometimes you get like PFF and sometimes it's like SIS or ESPN, and they post these graphics and the graphics start going viral, right? There was one with Josh Connerly. I believe it was PFF that posted it, but like a Washington Commanders beat reporter that I follow, he ended up retweeting this and it had like 1,000+ likes, right? And these people are talking about how Josh Connerly shut down Maxx Crosby, and it's crazy to me because there are people that actually think not only did Josh Connerly shut down Maxx Crosby, but then there's people that are saying that, hey, Maxx Crosby hasn't looked good for the Raiders this season. There's Raider fans that think this, and I almost feel like there's like this narrative that kind of exists within Raider fans where people actually think Maxx Crosby is not having an impactful season. And I want to talk about this because Maxx Crosby has actually been a lot better than I think what people are saying at this point. Maxx Crosby right now has 2 quarterback sacks, has 4 quarterback hits, has 4 tackle for losses. And I almost feel like tackle for losses kind of get overlooked a little bit because tackle for losses are basically sacks, right? If you lose 2 or 3 yards, that's sometimes what you're losing on a sack. So don't overlook tackle for losses, but more than even that, last year, according to Pro Football Focus Ultimate, right, the PFF Ultimate tool, last year Maxx Crosby was on pace for 133 positive plays, right? He obviously ended up getting hurt, didn't play the entire season. He was on pace for 133 positive plays according to PFF Ultimate. This year, he's on pace for 187 positive plays. So he's on pace to have a career year this year in terms of the impact he's having out there. And the thing with this PFF Ultimate tool and this positive play stat is you can just click it. It pulls up all the plays for you. And you can actually see that Maxx Crosby is actually blowing up plays. And, you see PFF is actually charting this stuff correctly. But it's kind of crazy because he had like 13 positive plays against the Commanders, but yet he had a 0% win rate, which that doesn't really make sense to me, truth be told. Maybe I don't understand stats. That's crazy to me, right? And again, I feel like we're at the point where Maxx Crosby's been criticized and people are saying he's struggling, but in reality, that is not what the tape is showing. This guy's having a phenomenal season for the Raiders. He's getting after it. Honestly, I think right now the bigger issue for the Raiders is that no one else is really having success. Thomas Booker has flashed a little bit. Adam Butler has flashed a little bit. Tyree Wilson and Malcolm Koonce aren't really doing anything for the Raiders at this point. And you can't even really blame those 2 guys, right? I don't know why the Raiders are playing so much base defense. And when they're getting into their base defense package, they end up putting 3 defensive tackles in. So Tyree Wilson last week played like 14 snaps. I think even this week he only played like 19 snaps or something around there. So these guys just aren't playing the snaps that they should be playing to actually have an impact out there. Malcolm Koonce, I don't even know how many snaps he had, but it was like maybe 15 snaps this past game. These guys literally just aren't getting the snaps, right? And I feel like right now that is impacting the Raiders, and that is why, people are saying Maxx Crosby is not having success. I think they're just trying to make an excuse for everybody else out there. Right? Because truth be told, the Raiders' defensive line is struggling right now, and it's not because of Maxx. Maxx is the only guy making plays consistently. And Adam Butler's right there as well. He's legitimately having a lot of success. But I think we're getting guys like Jonah Laulu to come in and, he's not consistent. And we get Tyree Wilson in, he's not consistent. And then we'll have plays where the quarterback just has all day to throw because we have Tyree and Laulu on the field at the same time. Or we're in base defense, so we have 3 defensive tackles out there. And 2 of those 3 defense tackles do nothing on any given, on that given play. The Raiders have run base defense by far the most in the NFL this season. That's crazy to me, right? Base defense, there's a reason why teams don't play base defense anymore. And you can put that on Pete Carroll for running the type of defense that the Raiders are running. Our defense is outdated, in my opinion. It's just a matter of time till a team takes advantage of it. When we play a good offense coordinator, we're going to see that kind of happen. It could happen against the Bears. We'll talk about the Bears. They have some injuries. It could happen against the Bears. They have Ben Johnson. But it'll definitely happen against the Chiefs. I guarantee you Andy Reid's going to take advantage, especially if we continue to go with the type of defense we're running right now. Getting back to Maxx Crosby, it's wild to me that people are actually hating on this guy, right? I think Maxx Crosby's having a great season, but the rest of the guys got to kind of step up. And I want to see the Raiders allow Malcolm Koonce to play 50 snaps in a game. As many snaps as Crosby's playing, put Koonce on the opposite side and let him play those snaps as well. And I know there was this idea of, hey, we're going to bring him on slowly. It's about to be week 4. He's played 7 games already, 6 games, I guess, at this point, right? With 3 preseason games as well as the 3 regular season games. And he's had all the training camps, another 6 weeks on top of that. Let Malcolm Koonce go out there and play. Let him get back by actually taking snaps. Our defensive line is struggling right now. So for as much as people are saying it's on Maxx Crosby, trust me, it's the other guys that are kind of struggling out there. Pay attention to Maxx Crosby in this game against the Bears. Chances are, any given play, he'll be in the backfield. Let's switch focus. We got an update coming out by our offensive coordinator. Now, if you guys watched the video yesterday, I actually talked about something that Lincoln Kennedy had said about Chip Kelly. Lincoln Kennedy basically said Chip Kelly is not running a good offense right now, right? The play calls just aren't effective. He's running a college offense almost, right? So this is some of the criticism he's been getting. It wasn't even just Lincoln Kennedy. There's a former NFL tight end that said some of those same things. Chip Kelly's definitely on the hot seat, and I think these Raiders coaches are kind of seeing some of what we're seeing because there's some responses that are kind of coming out. But Chip Kelly was asked, why did Jordan Meredith win the job for the Las Vegas Raiders over a guy like Jackson Powers-Johnson? And I want to just quickly give a huge shout out to all the Raiders reporters that are actually asking these questions. Because, in the past, I feel like Raiders reporters weren't asking these questions we wanted to know answers to. We want to know why Jackson Powers-Johnson is not our center. And I'm glad someone asked it. And it was asked specifically to Chip Kelly. And I want you guys to listen to what he had to say. And then I want to talk about this on the other side.
Because Jordan did a better job in preseason camp at playing center for us in terms of what we want call-wise, putting us in the right protections, doing all those things. I think Jordan's what you're looking for in the center in this league. He reminds me a little bit, I'm not going to say he is, but he reminds me a lot of Jason Kelce that I had when I was in Philly. He's got a long way to go. Jason's a Hall of Famer, but he's that type of player. We're really excited about what Jordan's doing at center.
So there you guys have it. Chip Kelly is basically saying that Jordan Meredith did a better job in camp in terms of the calls, right? Call-wise, Jordan Meredith did a better job. He went on to say that Jordan Meredith has put us in the right protection, which is what you're looking for in this league. He went on to compare Jordan Meredith to Jason Kelce, which is wild, but he made that comparison. Obviously, he's not saying he's as good as him in terms of he's a Hall of Famer, but he's kind of trying to say that, hey, from a body structure standpoint, he's kind of similar to Jason Kelce in that aspect, and I totally disagree with that as well, which I'll talk about in a second. But let's talk about this whole, putting us in the right protection. So if Jordan Meredith is putting us in the right protection, Chip Kelly's basically saying Jackson Powers-Johnson did not do that. JPJ struggled with the protection calls. And if this is true, right, which obviously our offensive coordinator is saying it's true. So if this is true that JPJ was struggling to put us in the right protection, isn't that what coaching's for? Isn't the point of coaching to teach guys what to do, to teach guys how to do things? Isn't that the entire point of coaching? Because, just taking a step back, Jackson Powers-Johnson wasn't even a center that long. His very first year at Oregon, his freshman season, he hardly played. His second season, he was a starting right guard, and he rotated in with the guy that I think the guy ended up in the NFL as well. And then in his third season, he made the switch to center for Oregon, and he had a phenomenal season, which was why he was considered the best center coming out of that draft class. He got into the NFL. They did not put him at center. He did not learn the protection calls. Instead, they put him at guard. They taught him the guard position. To me, no one's taught Jackson Powers Johnson protection calls, like at least in the NFL. And I think if a coach took the time to do it, he'd be a phenomenal center. He could be an all-pro center. And it seems like at this point, maybe he hasn't fully learned it, or, they haven't spent the time to teach it to him, because even this regime basically moved him to the right guard position. It almost seems like our coaching is failing Jackson Powers Johnson at this point. And again, it's wild to me because, I can tell you guys something, and, some of you guys are going to just agree with it. Some of you guys will actually watch the tape yourselves and come to the same conclusion. And other people will disagree with it and say that I'm wrong when I say this. But, I watched Creed Humphrey as an elite center prospect coming out. And Creed Humphrey started, and Creed Humphrey, very similar body structure to Jackson Powers Johnson. These two guys are bigger, a little bit slower, a lot more physical, a lot more stronger, but they're not so slow that they can't reach and cut guys off. JPJ can still do it, right? He can still reach and cut people off. For these guys to say that JPJ, the body structure, doesn't work as a center is a crazy idea to me, because the best center in the NFL is very similar to Jackson Powers Johnson. And, there's two center prospects that I've seen in the last 10 years that I thought hey, these guys are going to be elite football players. One is obviously Creed Humphrey, and this is before JPJ. One was Creed Humphrey, obviously JPJ, and the other was a guy that played at Alabama. His name's Landon Dickerson. Some of you guys know him. He's the starting left guard of the Philadelphia Eagles. And there's this huge misconception with Landon Dickerson. Some people think, hey, he's bigger, so the Eagles just decided we're going to draft him, and then we'll move him over to left guard because he's quote-unquote bigger. He can't play center. He's too slow. But that was not the idea when the Philadelphia Eagles drafted Landon Dickerson. The idea for Dickerson was that, hey, he's going to be our starting center because Kelce will retire here in the next season or so. Kelce ended up playing a lot longer than what the Eagles were kind of hoping, and Dickerson started right away at left guard for the Eagles, and he even ended up going past his rookie contract, right? I think he was in year 5. He ended up getting paid, he became one of the highest paid left guards, Landon Dickerson. And Kelce was still playing for the Eagles, right? And the Eagles ended up going and they drafted another center. And that center, Cam Jurgens, ended up being really good as well. So the Eagles just had multiple guys that could have played multiple positions that were top tier guys. Cam Jurgens, one of the highest paid centers as well now, as is Landon Dickerson, one of the highest paid left guards in the NFL. It's not like the Eagles felt like Dickerson can't play center. They just said, hey, we had Isaac Samalo. He ended up leaving to the Steelers. We needed a left guard. Just put Dickerson in that left guard. It worked. They just left him there. It made sense, right? But the Eagles also at that point had an elite-ass center. They didn't need another one. For the Raiders, our center situation's bad. It's awful in my opinion. I think a center like Jackson Powers Johnson, a center like Creed Humphrey, a guy that is a people mover, impacts your run game more than anything else. And it's kind of crazy to hear Chip Kelly saying that putting us in the right protection is what you're looking for in a starting center. Again, because I would think that's very, very basic things, right? Being able to call out and say, hey, we're going to slide to this guy, or we're going to slide to this guy, or hey, this is the play call, and these are the two types of protections we can have. Let's go with protection X. To me, that's basic ass stuff, right? And it just doesn't make sense to me. I totally disagree with what Chip Kelly is saying here. And again, I'm not an offensive coordinator. And I know some people are going to say, you're not an offensive coordinator, let the professionals handle this. We allow Josh McDaniels to handle the professional things. Dave Ziegler. Ziegler got us stuck with Tyree Wilson over all-pro D tackle, a potential all-pro right tackle. Sometimes it gets proven that professionals don't really know what they're doing. Right? Sometimes it gets proven that these guys aren't that good, and maybe they just don't understand certain things. And I'm not saying that's true with Chip Kelly, but this decision is just questionable in my opinion, right? Because to me, it just doesn't make sense that you think Jordan Meredith, just because he can make the protection calls, makes more sense for the Raiders. At the same time, if they think, hey, well, Meredith, from a body structure, he's a little bit quicker, that's what we want in the center. Not every team agrees with that. There's guys like Creed Humphrey that are starting in the NFL right now. There are guys like Aaron Brewer, who is a starting center right now in the NFL. Right? There are centers that are not just, quote unquote, they're quick and they're fast, there are guys that are actually physical, and some teams have those guys. The Raiders could potentially have that guy, and I think it would make our offensive line a lot better. I really do think this, but it is what it is. Also, Chip Kelly did talk about Jackson Powers-Johnson a little bit and why he wants JPJ at the right guard position. I'm not going to show you guys that video, but basically he said that, hey, Jackson Powers-Johnson is a bigger body, which is why I think he's a better guard than he is a center. So he's basically saying that JPJ is a bigger body guy, which is why we want him there. He can handle like bigger defensive tackles, right? Like those stronger 3 technique type of guys. That makes sense, and I definitely agree with what he's saying in that instance. JPJ is stronger, so it makes sense to put him at guard to handle those type of guys. But if we're struggling as an offensive line and, we're struggling specifically to generate movement, sometimes it doesn't make sense to go with the bigger guy at guard. Put the best guy at center. That too, if JPJ is struggling as a guard, and we know he'll be an elite center, just put him back at center, right? Maybe put Meredith back over there at guard. Right. So again, I just think that right now, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, they have to kind of figure things out. And, we've been criticizing both of these guys over the last couple of days, and I'm not the only one. A lot of you guys are saying the same stuff in the comments. Mitchell Rance had an entire YouTube video, phenomenal video yesterday that I watched, where he went on about this JPJ thing. And I agreed with 100%, everything he said, 100% agreed with it. Here's the thing. Pete Carroll, I think, is seeing some of this stuff. And there's a video in which we saw, and this was posted today by Vegas Sports Today, Pete Carroll ran up to Jackson Powers-Johnson and gave him like a chest bump, and these guys are like playful with one another. And I almost feel like this is scripted almost a little bit, right? And this is scripted in what I mean by that in this is scripted is that Pete Carroll doesn't want Raider fans to think that, hey, I have something against JPJ or whatever. Maybe he's feeling all the criticism from a lot of us. I'll be honest with you. When Pete Carroll started coaching years ago, there was no social media. There's no Twitter. You didn't hear as a coach a lot of the feedback that was coming from these fans, essentially, right? People like me, people like you. Today, that's not the case. Today, you start 1 and 2, the criticism is going to be through the roof. Right. These guys see things that we're all saying, things we're all talking about on social media. I like the fact that Pete Carroll's running over to Jackson Powers-Johnson and chest bumping him. That's great. But I hope the coaching staff recognizes that Jackson Powers-Johnson is not like an everyday offensive lineman. This guy's he's elite. Like, he has the potential to be elite. And we saw that in his rookie year when he was tossing Vita Vea, when he was going up against Cam Hayward and shutting him down 98% of the time. Right, a rookie was doing that to a future Hall of Fame type of player. And he's had this same success against so many people. We know what we have in JPJ, so I hope this coaching staff recognizes it as well. I want to get into 2 final updates. Jamal Adams was talked a little bit about transitioning to a linebacker. He was asked a little bit about the Bears. I'm going to let you guys listen to this, and then we'll talk about this on the other side.
And obviously still preparing and, just getting ready to, for the bounce back and get this bad taste out of our mouth.
Obviously, you made a transition down to that linebacker position. How have you liked the transition that you made?
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's different. Obviously, I would love to be in the back end, but, man, whatever it takes, whatever opportunities throw my way.
In what ways does that fit your skill set, that transition to the linebacker?
I mean, it's very similar to playing, safety, just walking down in the box. I'm doing a lot of the, similar things I did in the back end. So it hasn't really changed much, man.
What have you seen from the Chicago Bears on film so far? Like, who stands out to you, I should say?
Yeah, obviously, man, very unique. Man, I was with Ben Johnson for a little bit, in Detroit. So just obviously understanding how he likes to attack. And, there's a lot of ballers over there.
You guys face another mobile quarterback again this week in Caleb Williams. How do you limit or slow down a quarterback like Caleb?
Well, obviously just doing our job and, just try to slow him down as best we can. Obviously, he's...
So there you guys have it, right? Obviously, Jamal Adams talks about multiple different things, talks a little bit about playing the linebacker position and how it's a little bit different than being a safety. And it's kind of interesting because Jamal Adams obviously just kind of threw it out there saying, I would obviously love to be back there, talking about being a safety as opposed to a linebacker. But, it's interesting, right? Because he's saying that I would love to be a safety, but I am a linebacker, and he's having a lot of success as a linebacker as well. And he's playing more and more, right? In week 1, I forget how many snaps he played, but in week 2 and 3, he's been playing a lot more snaps. And he even went on to talk a little bit about the Bears. I did not recognize that Jamal Adams was with the Lions for a little bit, but thinking about it, I actually do remember that, right? He was with the Lions. I remember watching his tape, and there was some tape of him on the Lions. But he talked about how Ben Johnson's a very unique offensive coordinator, right? He talked about how the Bears have a lot of ballers on that football team. And, Jamal Adams obviously recognizes where the Raiders kind of are, and obviously he feels like the Raiders will bounce back. They'll get better, and they'll be able to win football games as we kind of go forward. I do hope that's the case, because right now, some of what I've seen from the defense and the offense, it's not promising, right? And I think coaching is definitely a big element of this. So hopefully the Raiders can kind of figure this out. And let's wrap this up, man. Let's talk a little bit about the injury report that came out. This is going to be the Bears injury report. This dropped just a couple hours ago. I mean, this is some good news for the Raiders. I'm not going to lie to you guys, man. So the Raiders will be playing a Bears team that's not fully healthy. So TJ Edwards is the starting linebacker for the Bears. Now, they have a couple other linebackers. They have Tremaine Edmonds. They have Noah Sewell, who's the brother of Penei Sewell. Noah Sewell's okay. Tremaine Edmonds pretty good. I think he had like 2 interceptions this past week. But TJ Edwards was the guy they're kind of relying on to help stop the run. Right? He's like their main run defender. And he did not practice for the first 2 days. And usually, if you don't practice for the first 2 days, chances are you're probably not going to play, or you're not going to practice on that third day, and you might be knocked out. And sometimes a guy will have like 1 day off, and then they'll practice the next 2 days. For some of these guys not to participate in 2 straight days means they might actually miss time. So TJ Edwards, hamstring, did not participate. Kyler Gordon, I believe, is a starting defensive back for these. I think he's their slot corner. He has a hamstring injury. He has not practiced. Grady Jarrett is their starting defensive tackle. They traded for him from the Falcons. He hasn't looked great on tape, and I watch the Bears every week for the Football Scout channel. And I know the Bears are like inside out, right? This is a team that I actually follow. And they traded for Grady Jarrett, and he hasn't flashed a lot, but like for the Bears not to have him, it does impact him, right? They have Javon Dexter, they have Grady Jarrett, and then they have like a rookie, and they have another guy in Zach Pickens. I think they still have Zach Pickens. But they have a rookie in Shamar Turner who has not looked really that good. And if they had to go to Turner, that could benefit the Raiders. If Grady Jarrett does not play, that could hugely benefit the Las Vegas Raiders. Colston Loveland, I think he was the 10th overall pick, hasn't really flashed all that much. Darnell Wright would be the big one, in my opinion. He did miss, I think, like 12 or 13 snaps this past week. They had their backup offensive tackle come in. It's Theo Benedict. I think he's a rookie tackle. Darnell Wright actually missed snaps this past game. Now, he did finish the game. He did come back, but he has an elbow injury. And if he does not play for the Raiders, that would be massive, because the Bears already have a struggling left tackle in Braxton Jones. And they chip and help this guy as much as they possibly can. And they rely on Darnell Wright to be in one-on-one opportunities, and for them not to have to help on his side. If they have a rookie out there and they still have Braxton Jones at left tackle, that could benefit the Raiders a lot. This isn't like playing a Commanders team where, hey, it's a rookie right tackle. Josh Connerly was a first-round pick. Josh Connerly has a huge upside to be a really good offensive tackle, and I think he will be that. This also isn't like a Chargers situation, right? The Chargers and even the Commanders, these guys have elite left tackles, or really, really good left tackles. This is different. The Bears would have no good tackle at this point if Darnell Wright were to miss time. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. These guys should be able to play. Jalen Jones, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet practice in full. DeMarco Jackson practice in full. DeAndre Swift would be a big one as well. Some people criticize Swift. Last week, I think he had a hamstring injury. This week, he has a hip injury. So I don't know if they just mislabeled that or if that's actually what it is. If that's the case, right, if he ends up missing this game or being limited, they really only have a rookie running back that they could go to. And the rookie running back's not even that good at this point. They have Roschon Johnson, who's just a special teams player. The Bears are banged up, man. Now, obviously, this is not the game recap, or the game preview, so I don't want to fully get into it. But the Bears have some weapons on the offensive side, right? They have Colston Loveland, who's a 10th overall pick. They have Cole Kmet, who's a pretty good tight end. They have a pretty good offensive line, right? Left guard, Joe Tooney, all-pro player, played for the Chiefs. Center, Drew Dalman, came from the Falcons. They made him one of the highest paid centers. Right guard, Jonah Jackson, they traded for him. He was the starting guard of the Lions. Of course, Darnell Wright's the starting right tackle. But then even on, with some of their weapons, right? Luther Burden was the guy I wanted for the Raiders, right? Instead of taking him with pick 38, the Raiders traded back. And the Bears took Luther Burden with pick 39. He had over 100 yards this past week. He had 3 or 4 catches, over 100 yards, had a touchdown. And he's starting to break out a little bit. Rome Odunze, some people think he's one of the top 5 wide receivers. People have compared him to A.J. Brown, and I kind of agree with that. The guy's a phenomenal wide receiver. And even DJ Moore's a pretty solid wide receiver. Odunze is definitely their number 1 guy, though. And he's good, right? And we've seen the Raiders struggle a little bit. So, keep an eye on this injury report. We'll obviously, I'll get you guys the update tomorrow when that comes out. We'll know which guys are going to be out, which guys are going to be questionable. We'll talk about this tomorrow, but let me know what you guys think, man. What are your guys' thoughts on Maxx Crosby? Some of what Chip Kelly has to say about Meredith. Obviously, I disagree with it. Let me know if I'm wrong on that, man. I love listening or I love reading some of your guys' comments. A lot of you guys have perspectives that are different than mine, and sometimes it makes me realize that, hey, I'm wrong on what I'm saying, right? And sometimes I agree with some of what you guys say. So make sure you guys drop a comment down in the comments below, thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.